Hi everyone, this is Andrew Carvajal from Carvajal Law, and welcome to another installment of the LPIN Academy. We're on the topic of LMIAs, and today we're going to be talking about something very important, which is to determine whether an LMIA is good to go from the start when you're being consulted by an employer that wants to have an LMIA application. And you need to first determine whether this is going to be a high wage or low wage LMIA, since there has been more restrictions on low wage LMIA since September of 2024. And if you determine that's a low wage LMIA, whether that LMIA falls under the refusals to process that are new again since September of last year. So this is an exercise that we didn't have to do before, but we've been having to do quite frequently to try to determine whether an LMI application is good to go or not. And that depends on the wage being paid and also on whether it falls under a census metropolitan area where the position will be taking place and the unemployment rate. So let's take a look at how to figure all of that. It took me a little bit of time at first to understand it fully, and I want to show you and do like a quick exercise with you. Okay, so as of September 26th of last year, there's a refusal to process instruction for low-wage LMIAs that are located in a census metropolitan area with an unemployment rate of 6% or higher. And we'll talk a little bit about how to calculate all of this. There are some exemptions that are important to understand. Occupations under primary agriculture and certain positions that fall under certain industries under certain codes of the North American Industry Classification System. And I've listed them there. It's very important to keep in mind that if you have an employee that's in construction, the position that you're doing the low-wage LMIA for must also be in construction. I don't think you're going to be able to get an exemption if you're doing an accountant for a construction company, for instance. Then there's other set of exemptions for specific in-home caregiver positions under certain NOCs. Also, there's some instructions about in-home caregiver positions in census metropolitan areas in Quebec. But they need to fit very specific requirements, so take a look at those. And also positions in support of permanent residents only. So those dual intent LMIAs, or more those LMIAs supporting PR that are only for the purpose of obtaining a work permit, but only for the purpose of gaining points towards permanent residence under express entry, but not obtaining a work permit. My guess is that with the removal of the express entry points for range employment that is happening in the spring of 2025, this exemption will no longer be there. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's say you're approached by an employer that wants to do an LMIA. Let's just give an example. The position is in Thunder Bay, and they're planning on paying the employee $30 per hour. So the first thing that you need to determine is whether this is a high wage or low wage position. And there was a significant increase in whatever it's the median, the threshold for high wage and low wage positions. Prior to last year, it just used to be the median wage for all the occupations in the province or territory. And since last year, they did this number plus an additional percentage to make it that more positions fall under low wage, the low wage threshold, or under the high wage threshold. So they're categorized as low wage positions. And basically now it's made it quite difficult for a lot of positions to be considered high wage and for employers to be paying something that would be considered high wage. So it's very important to distinguish this from the median wage of the position in the location of employment. Those are two different things. We have another video where we talk about how to determine what's the minimum wage that needs to be paid to that temporary foreign worker depending on the location of employment. That's something else. But what we're talking about here is whether it's a high wage or a low wage position, which is obviously going to determine the stream of the LMIA and whether there's a prohibition or not. So if anything is paid less than $34.07 in Ontario, it's considered low wage. If the position is paid more $34.07 or more, it's considered high wage. In Alberta, if it's paid 35.40 or more, it's a high wage position. If the employee is going to be paid less than 35.40, it's going to be low wage. So going back to the example, let's say it's a position in Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay is in Ontario. Let's say they're paying this person $30 per hour. $30 is less than 34.07, so that's going to be a low wage position. So now I'm going to have to look at whether this LMIA is good to go or not. If they're paying high wages, if they're paying 34.07 or more, then I don't have to worry about this. But since it's a low wage position, I do have to worry about this. Okay, so the first thing, so I've provided you the link to where the refusals to process appear. I'll take you to that website very soon. And the first thing that you're going to do is to enter the postal code in the census website that's listed there. So let's open it up and let's take a look. So basically, this is the refusal to process website. It has all the instructions on when an LMI will not be processed. We're interested in this part, okay? So here are the same instructions that I've provided in this slides. Let's take a look at them again. So basically, you're going to enter, and we'll do this together. You're going to enter the postal code. Then you're going to look at the geography search results page under census metropolitan area and census agglomeration at the geographic level. Again, we'll take a look at what this looks like. If this is not listed, then you can go on. The application will remain eligible even though it's a low wage. If the result lists the census metropolitan area / census agglomeration, then you need to go further. And if it says just census agglomeration, then you're good to go. But if it says census metropolitan area, then you actually need to go one step further and look up what's the unemployment rate for that area. Okay, so let's do an example. So again, here are the instructions, the same instructions that I pasted there. You need to open this website, the one that says census of population, and you need to enter the postal code. So let's do the postal code for the position in Thunder Bay. So let's say this position is going to be here. So I go to the census metropolitan area, census agglomeration. It is listed and it says census metropolitan area. So I know that I actually have to go that one step further. This section is listed. It says CMA, Thunder Bay. So that means I actually have to go back and look at Thunder Bay in this list. Okay. So I go down, I look it up, and I see that the unemployment rate, all of them is less than 6%. Now, keep in mind what these mean. So this is for applications submitted between September 26 to October 10. That has passed already. Applications submitted from October 11 to January 9th. Now we have from January 10 to April 3rd. Obviously, this keeps changing with time, but let's say today was March 16. I would be submitting an application between January 10 and April 3rd. So I have to look at this column, this third column. So again, we go for Thunder Bay. It's actually less than 6 in all of them, so I can proceed with an LMI application. But there's other places, for instance, Brantford, Ontario, where I couldn't do a low-wage LMI application in the past, but now I can do it because the unemployment rate has dropped below 6%. Okay? Let's do another example. So let's say my employers their postal code is this one, which is in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So again, I look it up. There is the census metropolitan area listed. I mean, that first step, which I had before, which is whether it's not listed, it can be processed. In this case, it is listed, but it says census agglomeration. So I don't have to go further. If it said census metropolitan area, then I would have to look up Cape Breton in this list. But since it says census agglomeration, I don't have to worry about it. And actually, Cape Breton is not listed here. So in this case, I can do a low-wage LMIA, and there's no problems there. Okay, so those are the instructions. It's definitely more steps that we need to do than we did before. First, we need to determine whether an application is low wage or high wage based on these numbers, which are always changing. Normally, they change twice a year. Then I need to determine with the postal code and going to this website that I'm providing you, whether it is a census metropolitan area or not. Here are the instructions that you'll be able to find. Then you'll have to enter the postal code in this website. You look it up. And if it's a census metropolitan area, you're going to have to look it up here and make sure that the unemployment rate is less than 6% to be able to proceed with the application. If it's 6% or higher, then you can't proceed. So that means it needs to be under 6%. And here, actually, they put in bold the metropolitan areas where they wouldn't be able to proceed with an LMIA application. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Certainly something new. And I hope it helps you in determining when an LMIA application that's considered low wage can proceed and when it cannot. So I'll see you in the next Alpin Academy video, and best of luck. Thank you for watching. If you want to continue learning, be sure to explore the full range of resources available to immigration and legal practitioners through the Alpin Academy and Alpin's CPD courses. Visit alpin.ca/academy to access the entire library of practical on-demand content.